Hello, my name is Lauren Micklack and I'm a planner with the City of Wheat Ridge Community Development Department. I am presenting case number WZ-19-18, which is a request to amend the underlying planned development zoning at Clear Creek Crossing to increase the allowable height for hospital uses. We'll start with an aerial, and this image is from 2018. The subject site is outlined here in red. It's located west of I-70, south of Highway 58 and Clear Creek, and north of 32nd Avenue. The property is known as Clear Creek Crossing and is about 110 acres in size. If you've looked at the site from the interstate lately, you've seen activity over the last year or so. In 2019, Denver Water completed work on a new water line that traverses the site. The master developer has been working on infrastructure, including construction of 40th Avenue, Clear Creek Drive, and the new hook ramps at I-70. Vertical construction is expected to begin soon. This image is an excerpt from the zoning map. That bright blue color represents the PMUD zoning designation, or Planned Mixed Use Development. The surrounding zoning, shown in gray, represents Planned Commercial Development, PCD, custom zoning for those respective commercial properties. The hatched area beyond the city's boundary to the west is unincorporated Jefferson County. This includes a residential neighborhood to the southwest, and on the east side of I-70 and the site are commercial and industrial developments, including the Applewood Village Shopping Center to the southeast, and this yellow area, which is a residential neighborhood beyond. Plan developments are customized property-specific zoning documents and involve a two-step process. In this case, the first step was approval of the PMUD zoning in 2018. That approval included two regulatory documents, the Outline Development Plan and Design Pattern Book. These two documents establish the allowed uses and development standards for the property and establish access configurations. The second step is approval of specific development plans, or SDPs, for each building, lot, or phase. These focus on specific details, including architecture, site design, and landscaping. For Clear Creek Crossing, one SDP has already been approved by Planning Commission, and several more are under staff review, with even more expected later this year. The approved zoning organizes the site into 8 planning areas. Each planning area allows a different mix of uses and has different development standards. In general, the zoning calls for a mix of land uses at a variety of scales, including multifamily residential, retail, restaurant, entertainment, and employment uses. The focus of this application is strictly on Planning Area 1, shown here in orange. There is no change proposed to the other planning areas. PA1 is owned by SCL Health, the same entity that operates the Lutheran Medical Campus in the middle of Wheat Ridge on 38th Avenue, just west of Wadsworth. SCL Health purchased the PA1 property in 2018. A hospital use is specifically listed in the Outline Development Plan and is a permitted use under the current zoning. As the applicant has started working on conceptual plans, they have refined their vision and needs for the site and determined that additional height allowance is necessary. In Planning Area 1, maximum height depends on the use, and 4 categories are established. This table is taken from the current zoning. In PA1, single-purpose commercial uses are limited to 62 feet in height. Residential uses are limited to 65 feet, and primary employment and vertical mixed use are limited to 90 feet. A 90-foot height maximum generally corresponds to a 6-story building. However, the building codes and functional needs of a hospital require additional height to achieve a 6-story structure. For example, the ceiling height in an operating room is generally taller than the ceiling height in an office building, and this is the reason for the zoning amendment. This request to allow additional height would be accomplished in the most limiting way possible by adding 2 specific categories to this PA1 height chart. The first would allow the hospital building to be a maximum of 102 feet, which would accommodate a 6-story structure. The second category would accommodate an elevator and vestibule accessory to a rooftop helipad. This is limited in size to 2,500 square feet, a small portion of the overall rooftop. Again, these are permitted uses under the current zoning, and there is no change to the use chart or to any other development standard in the project. This image is an excerpt from the Design Pattern Book. The end result of this request is that those 2 categories would be added to this table, shown here in red. In a plan development, for any change to a development standard, in this case the maximum height, the request is processed the same as the original approval. That means we review the request against the zone change criteria, and a full analysis has been provided in the staff report. In short, staff finds that the request does comply with those criteria. The change in height is not expected to have an adverse effect. The applicant submittal included with the staff report demonstrates that a rooftop helipad reduces impacts and improves safety as compared with a ground-based facility. The additional height cannot be achieved through any other process, such as a variance, and there are adequate facilities to serve a building of this height. The comprehensive plan and the zoning documents are not detailed enough to discuss the specific development standards for hospital use. The image on this slide is an excerpt from the comprehensive plan, which designates the property in that pink color as having a mix of uses and serving as a regional destination. Staff finds that it is appropriate to recognize the unique needs of a hospital use through this amendment. In terms of process, this request required a neighborhood meeting to be held prior to the application being submitted, and that took place last fall in October. There were 3 members of the public in attendance. The height proposal was also sent on referral to service providers, and there were no concerns. Written comments received as of June 12, 2020 are provided as an attachment to the staff report. Those include letters from 2 property owners within Clear Creek Crossing and adjacent to Planning Area 1 who are supportive of the request. Comments from community members have been mixed, both in writing and verbally, over the last couple of months. Written comments are also being accepted through noon on June 22nd on Wheat Ridge Speaks. The Commission held a public hearing on February 20th and recommended approval. This request was originally scheduled for public hearings in April at City Council on the 13th and then 27th. With the COVID pandemic and new virtual meeting format, the first reading was actually redone on May 11th. The hearing was scheduled for June 8th, but a legal protest was received on the same day, resulting in an automatic continuation to June 22nd. There have been comments from the community and from council over the last 3 months about public notice associated with those hearing dates, so I want to clarify what that has been. For each scheduled public hearing, now 4 times, we have sent letter notice to the property owners within 300 feet of the perimeter of the property. That is measured from the exterior perimeter of the overall development, the red line shown in the image here. City Code also requires that a sign be posted on the subject property on all street frontages, and in this case, all 4 times, a yellow posting sign has been erected at the northern boundary of the property close to Clear Creek Trail, at the 40th Avenue overpass, and at the southern boundary of the site. Code also requires that the hearing be published in a newspaper of general circulation, and in this case, we use the Wheat Ridge Transcript. And lastly, we provide notice on the city's website. As I mentioned, a legal protest resulted in the continuation of this hearing from June 8 to June 22nd. The city charter and code outline the process and implications for a protest against a zone change ordinance. When a protest is received after the first reading, as in this case, the code requires an automatic continuation to the council's next meeting. In this case, 7 owners representing 6 properties submitted a protest. Those properties and owners are not within Wheat Ridge, but are adjacent to the southern portion of Clear Creek Crossing in unincorporated Jefferson County. The charter does not limit protest rights to Wheat Ridge citizens. The protests filed do not cite a reason for their objection, and again, the charter and code do not require a reason be stated for the protest. While this specific height request affects only Planning Area 1, an amendment to the underlying zoning is processed as an amendment to the entire planned development zoning. In this case, that means all measurements related to the protest are taken based on the full boundary of the Clear Creek Crossing project, not simply from Planning Area 1. This image again shows the boundary of Clear Creek Crossing and the PMUD boundary in solid red, and the location of Planning Area 1 shown in a dashed red line. Per charter, a protest is valid if it is signed by the owners who comprise 20% of the area within 100 feet of any side of the property. In this case, the area within 100 feet of the southern boundary is shown by the blue stripe. The property owners who have signed the protest are shown in yellow, and that yellow area comprises 20% of the blue stripe, and therefore the protest has been deemed valid. The outcome of that valid protest is that 6 positive votes are needed from council members in order to approve the request instead of the standard 5 votes required for an ordinance. Ultimately, staff is recommending approval of this request for the limited height increase for the permitted hospital use in Planning Area 1. Eventually, in terms of next steps, the applicant will be submitting a specific development plan application, which would include more development details. The site and building design would be reviewed by staff and the Planning Commission through that process. This concludes my presentation. Thank you.